Hello, my name's Andrew, and today we're doing a first impressions review of the Vivo Barefoot Tracker DECON FG2 JJF. So, in case you're wondering what JJF stands for, it's John Florence. He's a legendary surfer and multi-time world champion. Vivo's been doing special collaborations with him on the design of their shoes, and this is the first one I've tried, but it looks really cool. And we're gonna get into the features and all that, and the testing that I've done so far for hiking and walking, but let's just start out with the toe box. So up front, you've got Vivo's typical wide toe box, and it is pretty stretchy because the leather's a little bit softer and more flexible, which is nice, so a little extra room there. It's 100% wild hide all the way around, and it's more of a suede type upper, so it's got that kind of matte look, which I like because some leather can get really shiny, and I don't know, I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, moving up, it's got this wool blend stretchy upper material here, which is great because even though this is actually a really high boot, it's only 431 grams. So a lot of times when you get higher boots like this, they're getting up into the 500, 600 grams and they can start to feel clunky. So most of the upper of this shoe is just this like really stretchy wool blend material, and there are a few things I really like about it. For one, you can see that it's ribbed here, and what that does is it gets the material off of your foot a little bit and creates some airflow so you're not sweating, kind of draws the humidity and some of the temperature away from your foot when you're hiking in higher temperatures. And then when you're hiking down in the winter, I mean, wool is great for insulation obviously, but it's also very breathable, so it prevents you from sweating and getting too sweaty in the shoe, which you can if you have a water resistant upper like this. It's not fully waterproof. Water can get in, especially because it's a stitched sole, which is great for durability, obviously, but it can let a bit of moisture in there if you're going through super wet conditions. So this is definitely a boot for like, medium wet to dry conditions. There's a lot of really good reinforcement on this boot, a lot of attention to detail. Like if you look here, it's actually triple stitched. And then right here where you might get a lot of tear out from the lace hold, you've got extra reinforcement as well. And I actually like where this lace is connected. Vivo's doing this new thing. It's kind of like this thicker lace loop thing, and it's nice because you don't feel it. This is one of the points where you get a lot of tension, and if you have these types of lugs, they're great for durability, but they're a little bit harder feeling, and if you have that at a point where the boot is bending, then you can kind of feel it, and I don't really like that feel. But then up top, you've got these lace hooks, which are nice because like I said, then you don't really have to do anything with the lower ones other than kind of adjust the tension if you want. But every time you take the boot on and off, all you have to do really is the top two. So on top of the wool upper, you've got this extra panel here, and it's been cut right here. So when the foot bends, it's got a little bit more flexibility, and then it's also been sculpted out in the back, which is really nice because then you have this flexible part here, and when your heel is going backwards, there's no limitation of movement. In terms of how flexible the upper is, extremely flexible. It doesn't really limit range of motion at all despite being so tall. And I like having a tall upper like this, especially when you're going through rocky gravel type of terrain, because it can kick up stones and then they can like go down into there. If you have lower cut shoe, like, I don't know, if you're running in the Primus Light Knit or something like that. So it really hugs your ankle and keeps gravel from getting out, and it's just a nice feature because when I'm walking along and I get gravel in there, I just hate having to take the boot on and off. It's just a pain. But yeah, there's multiple layers of reinforcement here. You've got the regular leather, and then you've got a heel guard around the back, which is just nice because a lot of times the heel is where the shoe will break apart just from more strain. Underneath, you've got a 7mm sole, which is made up of 4mm for the lugs and 3mm for the midsole, which is really amazing because actually Vivo Barefoot's road shoe, which is super flexible, is thicker. It's a 4mm sole, so what you get is a pretty tough hiking boot that actually has some ridiculous flexibility. Like, check this out. You can just twist it in any direction, vertically, horizontally. And actually the first time I tried this tread, the FG2, I didn't like it as much because I tried it on the Vivo Barefoot Tracker Textile, which has a little bit of a thicker upper. And I realized when you have a thinner, softer leather upper like this, it actually totally changes the feel of the shoe and it becomes much more flexible. So I actually really like this sole. It's got definitely thicker, more meaty lugs, and they've got this kind of like chopped off pyramid shape, you know, like this. Which is great because there's quite a bit of room in there. So I took these out this morning on a walk and it was really muddy and disgusting, and is like, I didn't even clean these off and there's no mud stuck anywhere on the boots, which you can get like with Vivo Barefoot's Tracker SG, the winter version. It has these, you know, thicker kind of claw like soft ground tread, and the mud can get stuck in there even though it has really good grip. So I don't know, I really like this tread. It doesn't feel as great walking on like pavement just because the lugs are a little bit thicker. It's like if this was your only shoe for all year long, it would be fine. You know, you can do road mileage, and it's, you know, it's especially if you put maybe like a soft wool insole or something in there just to give yourself a little bit more protection, because you can feel the lugs. I think you can feel the lugs a little bit more than you could with the original FG tread because those lugs were a little bit closer together. But they tend to trap mud a little bit more, so it's like pros and cons. But I thought that they were really nice walking. I even did a little bit of running. I mean, they're not really meant for running, but the upper is so light and flexible that you can get away with it. There's a lot of, you know, forward flex and flex in the back because of the wool blend stretchy upper. So yeah, I think it's great for hiking. It could be great for backpacking as well. It's not as water resistant as something like the Vivo Barefoot Tracker, the original one, which is actually fully waterproof. You know, the water can come in through the stitching, and so yeah, I would keep them to either dry terrain or like medium wet terrain. It's like no problem going through like a wet, muddy field, but if you're gonna go through like a deep puddle, it's a problem because, you know, right here, essentially the water can come in. If you go into anything deeper than that, it can just come in straight through the wool, or it can kind of splash up over into the wool. So yeah, not a fully waterproof shoe by any means, but really great for lighter, faster hiking. I think it would be really great to do like an ultra marathon hike in these because they've got some really good toughness, but also some really excellent flexibility, and they're light and they're breathable. They're great for using all season because they're not too insulated, and they've got a lot of breathability plus warmth with the wool upper there. And just one last detail on them before we talk about alternatives. They do come with Vivo Barefoot's typical thermal insole, which has your kind of space blanket material in there to reflect body heat up. I generally like a thinner like wool, I don't have one around here right now, but just, you know, a wool felt insole that's only a few millimeters thick because it's more flexible. I find this to be a little bit thicker, and sometimes it can make the shoe feel more stiff. But one thing I really like about it, or one place that I would really use it, is if you are going into super wet conditions. Because of the space blanket material, it acts as like an extra waterproofing layer under your foot, whereas like a wool insole is not going to do that for you. I just thought it was cool that they put a quote from John Florence on here in his own handwriting. Just a cool touch. I don't know, I like it. All right, so let's talk about alternatives. Probably the best alternative would be the Vivo Barefoot Magna FG. This is probably my all-time favorite all season, like do anything type of shoe. It is a little bit heavy for, you know, for trail running, but you can certainly do hiking, you can do walking in it. And I like that you can fully slip your shoe or your foot into this one. So like, I just find that it's so convenient. I just grab this, even though there's other shoes that I really like as well, like being able to slip this on and go out the door. And then you've got the original FG tread, which is great for all types of terrain, basically anything except for super steep, muddy, slippery hills. Yeah, it's got really high water resistance as well. Not completely waterproof, but it stood up to pretty much everything. Even going through fairly deep puddles, it was fine as well. You can treat it like any other leather shoe. And yeah, it's got that super stretchy upper, wool blend upper, which is great. And yeah, it's a 5.5 millimeter sole for this one versus the 7 millimeter for the FG2. So in terms of feeling between those two, it's interesting because I think I get more ground feel in this because it has that 3 millimeter midsole where the sensation can come through a lot. And then with the FG2, it's like I don't get quite as much ground feel, but I also don't notice the lugs as much because they're closer together. So that's just something to consider. Actually, one last thing that I want to mention about both of these shoes is that Vivo Barefoot has this kind of side strap system. And I do feel just like the slightest pressure on my ankle. So I think it feels more comfortable if you wear a couple layers of socks. But then again, like I have really bony ankles, so most people may not even have a problem with it. But yeah, it's the same thing here. I mean, you can just feel like a slight pressure from it, so yeah. Another really good alternative would be the Soft Start Switchback. This also has a super flexible upper. It is lined with merino wool, so it's better for colder weather, but you can get up to maybe like 60, 65 degrees with these, which, you know, if you're in a temperate climate, that might be most of the year. And they're really good for colder weather as well, just because of the insulation, but they're not too hot, so you can kind of layer up and down with merino wool socks just to adjust the temperature. They do have a Vibram Mega Grip sole. This is the best sole in the world, in my opinion, and I really like it because they've got, you know, like these kind of bulkier treads out here for hiking on firm ground, rocks, and stuff like that. And then they've got the triangle grip for going up and down muddy hills, which is great. You can hike in this, you can trail run in this. It feels really amazing walking on roads as well, because Vibram rubber is so freaking weird. It's like soft, but it's also extremely durable and really grippy. So I just love it. It's the best rubber in the world. This one is a little bit thicker. It's got a 9.5 millimeter sole, but 3.5 millimeters of that is like this softer midsole. So it doesn't feel clunky whatsoever. It's got really excellent flexibility all around. And yeah, if you wanna support the channel, I'm gonna put referral links down below for the Vivo Barefoot Tracker DECON JJF. And you can get a 10% discount with the code FOLDSY10, or use FOLDSY15 in March of 2024 to get 15% off. But you can also browse and filter more products on my website, barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about the Vivo Barefoot Tracker DECON or about barefoot shoes in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.